The next couple of lectures are going to look closely at a few key passages from the C.S. Lewis excerpt that you read. If you don't know who C.S. Lewis is, he was a very famous English poet, author, theologian. Chronicles of Narnia ring a bell? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? That's C.S. Lewis. During World War II, the Nazis were just relentlessly pounding England, and British citizens, English citizens, were very despondent, very full of despair, very frightened. They're looking at this world that seems to be so full of destruction that there's not a lot of reason to find hope and purpose in their lives. And so C.S. Lewis was asked, will you give a weekly radio address where you lay out what you believe to be the case about who we are and what our purpose is and how to cope and find purpose in really challenging times? And so Lewis gave these weekly radio addresses that he eventually ended up revising into the book that you read the excerpt from. And what Lewis is really doing here is he's providing an argument for natural law theory. That's one of the things he's doing here. So let's take a look at some of these passages. The idea was that just as all bodies are governed by the law of gravitation and organisms by biological laws, so the creature called man also had his law, with this great difference, that a body could not choose whether it obeyed the law of gravitation or not, but a man could choose either to obey the law of human nature or to disobey it. Now, what's important here is the second part of this passage. And so what Lewis is saying is we recognize that there are these laws that exist, these natural laws that bound in and limit everything that exists in our universe, right? Rocks and humans don't get to choose to not obey the law of gravity. Humans don't get to choose to disobey the biological laws that we know sort of bound in all life as we know it. But what Lewis is saying here is there's this other kind of law, this other kind of boundary that we seem to naturally have. And that what he's calling this the law of human nature. And what he's pointing at is this seemingly innate ability we have to feel like we've been wronged by someone. And this innate ability that we seem to have to try to justify ourselves when someone claims we've done something wrong. And what Lewis is saying is this is a law that doesn't bound us from the outside. It's a law that's sort of written into us, and it bounds us from the inside. And unlike all those other laws, we actually have the ability to disobey this law. We can choose to do the thing that we know is the wrong thing to do. Right? Okay, now one criticism of Lewis here might be, yeah, well, that sort of impulse that you're describing, Professor Lewis, this is just the byproduct of cultural or social forces over time. And it's not really a part of human nature. And Lewis is going to respond to us by saying something like this, probably. He's going to say, okay, so if this impulse towards ethics and morality that you have, that you fully can recognize because you think it's possible for somebody to treat you wrongly, how is it the case that every single mentally healthy, non-psychopathic adult for all of human history has had this same impulse? Even people who didn't know that other people outside of their groups or tribes existed at all. How is this seemingly a universal phenomenon throughout human history to have these ideas about morality? The specific ideas may differ from culture to culture, but what Lewis is pointing at is that there seems to be this impulse that we naturally have that inclines us towards ideas about right and wrong.